In the mountain territories of the Shadow Peak Pack, there exists a curse worse than death, to be born an Omega who cannot sing. For generations, the Pack's Omegas have been valued for one gift above all others: their ability to carry the ancient songs, the melodies that soothe alpha rage, bind pack bonds, and call the moon's blessing during hunts. Without a voice, an Omega is worthless. Without a song, an Omega is nothing. I am that nothing. My name is Seraphine Nightshade, and I have not sung a single note in 15 years, not since the fever struck when I was 3 winters old. The sickness ravaged through the pack that year, taking many lives and leaving others permanently scarred. I survived, but the fever took my voice as its parting gift, leaving my throat whole, but my vocal cords forever frozen. The healers tried everything. Moon water rituals where I was submerged in blessed streams under the full moon. Herbal smoke ceremonies that made my eyes water and my lungs burn. Even blood magic from the old ways, forbidden rites that left my mother weeping, and my father hollow-eyed with guilt and fear. Nothing worked. My silence remained absolute, a brand that marked me as deficient, incomplete, unworthy of my Omega designation. My parents bore the shame of my condition as best they could, but shame is a heavy burden that slowly crushes the spirit. My father, Dorian Nightshade, was once a respected hunter, strong, skilled, always bringing home game that fed multiple families. After my diagnosis became permanent, he began to avoid pack gatherings. Other alphas would ask about my progress with pitying eyes, and each time he had to admit there was none, a piece of him died. My mother, Alara, suffered differently. She stopped attending Omega circles where the other females would offer hollow reassurances while their eyes said what their mouths wouldn't. Asterisk. Thank the moon my daughter isn't like yours. Asterisk. She withdrew into our dwelling, spending hours staring at nothing, lost in dreams of what should have been. They loved me. I never doubted that, but love cannot erase the weight of disappointment. I saw it in the way my father's shoulders slumped when he looked at me, in the way my mother would start to hum a lullaby, then stop abruptly, remembering I would never sing it back. When I was 10 winters old, they died in a rock slide during a hunt. The pack called it a tragic accident, loose stones, bad weather, wrong place at the wrong time. But I heard the whispers. Some said it was mercy, that the moon had finally released them from the burden of their broken daughter. Others said my father had grown careless in his grief, that his distraction caused the avalanche that killed them both. Either way, the message was clear. My existence had cost them their lives. I inherited their dwelling on the eastern ridge, a solid structure of timber and stone, positioned a good mile from the pack center through dense forest. It was isolation by design, built by my grandfather decades ago when he wanted peace in his later years. Now it served a different purpose, keeping the defective Omega out of sight, where her silence wouldn't constantly remind the pack of nature's cruelty. The pack elders granted me the dwelling out of charity, though I suspect they were simply glad to have me removed from daily pack life. Elder Corvin, who led the council even then, made the decision official with a pronouncement that felt more like exile. The child may keep her parents' home. It's far enough from the center that her condition won't disturb the pack's harmony. For 4 years after my parents' death, I lived in that dwelling essentially alone. 10 years old to 14, the years when most young wolves are learning their place in pack hierarchy, forming friendships, discovering their strengths. I spent those years in solitude, learning instead how to survive on my own. I taught myself to hunt small game using traps instead of my wolf form. My shifts were difficult. My wolf as broken as my human voice, producing only pained whimpers instead of proper howls. I learned which plants were edible, which were poisonous, which could be traded at the pack center for supplies I couldn't make myself. I learned to read the weather in the clouds, to track time by the sun and stars, to find my way through the forest in complete darkness. I learned how to be invisible. The pack members who occasionally crossed my path would avert their eyes, uncomfortable with my presence. Children would point and whisper, until their parents shushed them with sharp words. Teenagers would sometimes shout cruel taunts from a safe distance. Sing us a song, mute girl. Let's hear that beautiful voice. I learned to endure it all in silence. What choice did I have? My only salvation came in the form of my grandmother, Lysa Nightshade. She was ancient even when I was born, a female of 70 winters when my parents died, making her already quite elderly. Where everyone else saw my voicelessness as a curse, she saw potential. "Come here, little shadow," she would call when I visited her dwelling in the Western District, where the pack's healers maintained their workshop. "Let me teach you something useful. Hands that heal are worth more than voices that merely make noise." She taught me the healing arts with patient dedication, never once making me feel inadequate for my silence. How to recognize bloodroot from heart's ease by the subtle differences in their leaves. How to set a broken bone using splints and herbal wraps that would speed healing. How to draw fever from a wound with moss poultices gathered from the north sides of specific trees. How to brew teas that could ease pain, stop bleeding, or bring peaceful sleep to those suffering. "Your silence is a gift, child," she told me one autumn evening as we ground herbs together in her workshop. "It teaches you to listen, truly listen to what people aren't saying. To hear the pain in a held breath, the fear in a quickened pulse, the desperation in eyes that stay too dry. Healers who talk too much never learn to listen. You'll be better than all of them." I wanted to believe her. I clung to her words, like a drowning person clings to driftwood. My grandmother's journals became my sacred texts, 3 leather-bound books, each one filled with her careful drawings of plants and their properties, detailed instructions for treating everything from common colds to life-threatening injuries, and notes about hundreds of patients she had treated over her long career as the pack's master healer. I memorized every page, practiced every technique, devoted myself completely to becoming the healer she believed I could be. When I was 14 winters old, on a cold winter morning when frost painted the windows in crystalline patterns, my grandmother simply didn't wake up. I found her in her bed, her body peaceful, as if she had merely drifted from sleep into death without struggle. She was 80 years old, having lived a full life of service and healing. Her hand was still warm when I held it, and I tried "Moon Help Me." I tried to sing for her, the death hymn that escorts souls to the moon's embrace. The song every wolf knows from childhood, the melody we sing to guide our loved ones to the afterlife. I opened my mouth, shaped the words with my lips, pushed air from my lungs with everything I had. Nothing emerged, not even a whisper, just silence. Even in death, I failed her. After her passing, the pack's head healer, Corvin, took over her workshop without acknowledging me or my training. The other healers acted as if I didn't exist. When I tried to offer my services, bringing herbs I had gathered and prepared, they would accept the supplies, but turn me away from any actual healing work. "You cannot communicate with patients," Corvin told me flatly when I persisted. "Healing requires clear instruction, verbal reassurance. You would frighten them with your strangeness." So I returned to my dwelling on the ridge, more alone than ever. I continued gathering herbs, preparing remedies, and leaving them at the healing house door where they would be taken without acknowledgement. Anonymous contributions from the ghost girl. The loneliness became a physical thing, a weight that pressed against my chest and made breathing difficult. Days would pass where I spoke to no one. Weeks where the only sound in my dwelling was the crackle of fire and the wind through the pines. I stopped attending pack gatherings unless attendance was mandatory. Stopped trying to make friends among wolves my age. Stopped hoping that someday, someone might see past my silence to whatever worth might lie beneath. I accepted my role, the ghost girl, the silent shame, the Omega who would never be chosen. 4 more years passed this way. I am 18 winters old now, and nothing has changed. Nothing ever will. The Alpha King who rules Shadow Peak Pack is named Voss Darkwater, and his story is almost as tragic as mine, though tragedy looks different when you're powerful instead of powerless. Voss is 28 winters old, having ruled for 3 years since his father's death in battle against northern raiders. He is everything an Alpha King should be: powerful, decisive, feared by enemies, and respected by allies. His wolf form is massive, pure black fur, standing nearly 4 feet at the shoulder, with storm-gray eyes that seem to see through flesh to the soul beneath. But he is also broken in ways the pack doesn't fully acknowledge. When Voss was 23, he found a mate. Her name was Kira Moonwhisper, a beautiful Omega from a prominent family, with a voice so lovely that birds would stop singing to listen when she performed. It wasn't a fated mate bond; those are rare, precious gifts from the moon that happen perhaps once in 100 pairings. But it was a strong chosen bond, one that grew into genuine love over their 2 years together. They were happy, the pack rejoiced. Kira became pregnant with their first pup, and the future seemed golden. Then the raiders came. The northern wastes, wild territories beyond our borders where rogue wolves and outcasts gather, occasionally send raiding parties into packlands during harsh winters. Desperate wolves looking for food, supplies, captives. Our warrior scouts usually intercept them before they reach residential areas. But that year, 5 years ago, a large raiding party slipped through our defenses during a blizzard. They struck at dawn, attacking the Omega dens while most of the warriors were out on patrol. Voss was leading a hunting party in the eastern territories when it happened. By the time word reached him and he raced back, it was over. 15 Omegas were killed in the attack. Kira was among them. She died defending the other Omegas, fighting in her wolf form despite being 6 months pregnant. The raiders tore her apart. When Voss found her body, she was barely recognizable. Their unborn pup had died with her. The grief transformed Voss into something cold and hard. He hunted down every raider involved. It took him 3 months, tracking them across the wastes, fighting through their camps, executing them one by one. When he returned, he was Alpha King in truth. Powerful, efficient, absolutely ruthless with threats to the pack. But the warmth was gone. The joy was gone. The part of him that laughed and smiled and believed in happiness gone. He attends every moonrise pairing ceremony, sitting on his throne of black oak, watching Omegas sing their hearts out. But he never chooses, never claims, never shows even a flicker of interest. For 5 years now, he has attended and left alone. Some say he's waiting for a true fated mate bond, something that might heal what was broken when Kira died. Others say his heart died with her, and no amount of beautiful singing will ever reach him again. I understand him in a way I've never told anyone. We are both ghosts haunting our own lives, both broken by losses we couldn't prevent, both going through motions without truly living. But he is a king, powerful, important, mourned by all who knew him before, and I am nothing, powerless, forgotten, mourned by no one. Tonight is the moonrise pairing, and I must attend. The pack hall is magnificent tonight, dressed for ceremony. Pine boughs heavy with winter berries line the ancient rafters, their evergreen scent mixing with wood smoke from the great fire pit that dominates the center of the space. The flames leap and dance, fed by sacred oak that's been blessed by the pack's spiritual keepers. The smoke rises in fragrant columns, carrying prayers to the moon. Alphas stand in tight clusters near the fire, their powerful frames radiating predatory confidence. They are here to choose, to claim, to bind themselves to an Omega whose song will soothe their beast and strengthen their bloodline. I recognize most of them warriors, hunters, craftsmen, all seeking mates to build futures with. The Omegas are gathered in the center space, a sea of nervous energy and desperate hope. There are 12 of them this season, all unmated, all of age, all dressed in their finest ceremonial clothing. They have spent months preparing for this night, perfecting their songs, learning the ancient melodies that have been passed down through countless generations. Each one knows that their voice is their only currency, their only path to security and status. A good match with a strong alpha means protection, provision, and pups. A poor match, or no match at all, means another season of waiting, another year of uncertainty, and the creeping fear that they'll age out of desirability and end up bonded to whoever will take them out of desperation rather than desire. I stand in the shadows near the eastern archway, my body pressed against the cold stone wall, trying to make myself as small and invisible as possible. I am here only because attendance is mandatory for all unmated Omegas of age. The elders made that clear when they sent the summons to my dwelling. To refuse would be to declare myself completely outside pack law, which would result in exile or worse. So I came, wearing my mother's old ceremony dress, its faded blue wool that smells of cedar and the moth herbs I store it with, simple and outdated compared to the elaborate gowns the other Omegas wear. But it's all I have, and at least it's clean and mended. I am not part of the official ceremony roster. The pack elders made that decision years ago, after the first moonrise pairing I attended following my coming of age. What is the point? Elder Corvin had said loudly enough for everyone to hear. She cannot sing. She cannot be properly paired. It would only embarrass her and waste everyone's time. Let her attend as witness, but do not include her in the presentations. The humiliation of that pronouncement had burned like acid, but I had nodded and accepted it. What choice did I have? He was right. After all, no alpha would want an omega who couldn't fulfill the most basic duty of her designation. So I attend, but I do not participate. I am a ghost, haunting the edges of a celebration I have no part in. The ceremony begins with the calling of the moon. Elder Mira, the eldest omega in the pack, steps forward to the fire. Despite her age, her voice is still powerful and beautiful as she sings the opening hymn, an ancient melody that has welcomed every moonrise pairing for 300 years. Her voice climbs and soars, filling the hall with a sound that makes the flames dance higher, and the pack members bow their heads in reverence. The pack responds with a unified howl, their voices rising to meet the night sky, visible through the smoke hole in the roof. It is a moment of pure pack unity, every wolf joining their voice to the song, calling to the moon for her blessing on the night's pairings. I do not howl. I cannot. I simply stand in my shadow, my throat working uselessly, my lips forming the shape of sound that will never emerge. The pairing ceremony follows the ancient pattern. Each unmated omega is called by name. They step forward from the group, moving to stand alone before the fire, before the assembled alphas, before the entire pack. It is a moment of pure vulnerability, their voice laid bare, their soul offered up for judgment. They sing. If an alpha's beast responds to the song, if the melody stirs something deep in their blood and calls to their soul, they step forward to claim the omega. It is binding, sacred, irreversible. The pair is then bound before the fire with ceremonial cord, and they disappear into the night to complete their mating bond in privacy. One by one, the omegas are called. One by one, they sing their hearts out into the smoke and firelight. Lissa goes first. She has copper hair that falls in waves down her back, and her voice is like honey sweet, golden, irresistible. She sings a hunting song, full of wild energy and passion, her body swaying with the rhythm. 3 alphas step forward simultaneously, causing a murmur of appreciation in the crowd. She has her choice, and she chooses well, a warrior named Cade, who is strong, young, and handsome. The pack erupts in celebration as they are bound, the ceremonial cord wrapped around their joined hands. Denna is next. Her song is softer, a lullaby meant to soothe and comfort. She's hoping for a gentle match, and she gets one, though not in the way she wanted. An older alpha named Thorn steps forward, a widower with grown pups who is seeking a companion more than a mate. Denna's face shows disappointment. She clearly hoped for someone younger, more exciting, but she accepts with grace. It is a match, and a match is always better than no match at all. The pattern repeats. Songs rise, alphas claim, the crowd celebrates. The center of the ceremony space grows emptier as omegas are chosen and led away. Mira sings a war song and is claimed by a scout. Tessa sings a love ballad and is claimed by a craftsman. Juna sings a moon hymn and is claimed by a farmer. Each match is met with applause, with celebration, with joy. Each omega leaves wearing a smile, even if there's fear or disappointment behind their eyes. Because being chosen, even if it's not the match you dreamed of, is better than not being chosen at all. I press myself further into the shadows with each pairing, counting the minutes until this ordeal ends. The weight of my own inadequacy grows heavier. These omegas, these females I've lived alongside my entire life, are moving forward into futures while I remain frozen in place. They will have mates, homes, pups. They will have purpose and belonging. And I will return to my dwelling on the ridge, alone, unchanged, exactly as I was before. Through it all, Alpha King Voss sits motionless on his high throne. The throne itself is carved from black oak, ancient and imposing, positioned on a raised dais that allows him to observe the entire hall. He wears no crown, no ceremonial robes, just simple leather and fur, the working clothes of a warrior rather than the finery of a king. He doesn't need decoration to command respect. His presence alone is a force that makes weaker wolves instinctively lower their eyes and bow their heads. His face is carved from stone, his expression neutral and distant as he watches the ceremony unfold. His eyes are the color of a winter storm, pale gray, cold, penetrating. His black hair is long and pulled back in the warrior's style, revealing the strong lines of his face and the scar that runs from his left temple to his jaw, a memento from some long-ago battle. When each omega sings, his eyes track them with the detached interest of someone fulfilling a duty they have no passion for. His expression never changes. He never leans forward, with interest. He never steps down from his throne. He never claims. The final Omega is called a young girl named Petra, barely of age, her voice trembling with nerves. She's small, even for an Omega, with light brown hair and wide, frightened eyes. She sings a traditional mating song, sweet and hopeful, her voice cracking slightly on the high notes. A beta male named Carrick steps forward. He's not an alpha, not the powerful, dominant mate that Petra clearly hoped for based on the way her face falls, but he's kind-looking and young. Petra accepts with tears in her eyes, and they are bound. The ceremony space is empty now. All 12 official Omegas have been paired. Every single one has found a match. Elder Mira steps forward to sing the closing hymn, the song that releases the moon's blessing and officially ends the night's rituals. But before she can draw breath to begin, a voice cuts through the hall like a knife through silk. Wait. The single word is spoken quietly, but it carries absolute authority. Every head in the hall turns as one. Alpha King Voss is standing. His storm-gray eyes are fixed on something, someone at the back of the hall. Fixed on me. My blood turns to ice. My heart stops. This cannot be happening. Every eye in the hall follows the Alpha King's gaze, to where I stand pressed against the cold stone wall, in my mother's faded dress. 300 pairs of eyes suddenly see me, the ghost who was supposed to remain invisible. I want to run. I want to melt into the stones. I want to disappear, but my body has turned to lead. I cannot move. I am frozen, pinned like an insect under glass, trapped by that storm-gray stare that sees through shadows and into souls. Voss Darkwater steps down from his throne. His movement is fluid, predatory, the walk of an apex hunter who has spotted prey. But there's something else in his expression beneath the usual stone mask. Confusion, perhaps, or recognition. His beast is visible just beneath the surface of his skin, making his eyes flash silver in the firelight. The entire hall holds its breath. You, he says, his deep voice carrying across the sudden, absolute silence. It is not a question, it is an identification, an accusation, a summons. Step forward. Panic floods through me like ice water in my veins. My heart hammers against my ribs so violently I think it might crack through bone and escape my chest entirely. Every instinct screams at me to run, to flee into the night and never return, to disappear into the forest and live as a rogue rather than face this public humiliation. But I cannot move. The alpha command in his voice has frozen my muscles. My Omega biology recognizes his authority and responds before my conscious mind can override it. Elder Corvin steps forward, his aged face twisted with confusion and barely concealed displeasure. He is a male of 60 winters, powerful in politics, though his fighting days are long past. His graying beard is elaborately braided in the style of the old families, and his ceremonial robes speak of wealth and status. Alpha King, he says carefully, his voice carrying the diplomatic tone of someone walking on thin ice. That is Seraphine Nightshade. She is not part of tonight's ceremony. She cannot. I did not ask for explanation. Voss interrupts, his tone sharp enough to draw blood. His eyes never leave me. I gave a command. Seraphine Nightshade. Step forward. The use of my full name, a name most of the pack has forgotten, jolts through me like lightning. My body moves before my mind catches up, obeying the undeniable weight of alpha authority. My legs carry me out of the shadows, across the suddenly vast expanse of empty ceremony space, toward the fire where he stands waiting. Every step feels like walking toward my own execution. The pack watches in stunned silence. I can feel their eyes on me, confused, pitying, some cruelly amused. Whispers start immediately, hissing through the hall like wind through dead leaves. What is he doing? The voiceless one? He can't be serious. Is this some kind of test? Poor thing. She's going to humiliate herself in front of everyone. I focus on the ground, on my worn boots moving one in front of the other, across the cold stone floor. I count the steps. 15, 20, 25. Each one bringing me closer to whatever horror awaits. I stop 3 paces from him, following the ancient protocol for an Omega presenting to an Alpha. My eyes remain fixed on the ground. I cannot look at him. If I look at him, If I see the disgust or pity or cruel amusement that must be in his face, I will shatter completely. Look at me. The command is softer this time, but no less powerful. There is something in his voice I cannot identify, an undercurrent beneath the authority that sounds almost like pleading? No, that's impossible. Alpha kings do not plead with broken omegas. I force my eyes up past the worn leather of his boots, past his legs, strong as tree trunks, past his chest, broad enough to block out the fire behind him, past his scarred throat and firm jaw, until finally I meet his gaze. And the world stops. The moment our eyes lock, something happens. Something impossible. I feel it like a physical force slamming into my chest, a recognition so profound it steals the breath from my lungs. His beast surges forward, visible in the silver flash of his irises, and I hear it. Not with my ears, with something deeper. A song. His song. A melody of loneliness and grief and desperate, howling need. It is beautiful and terrible, wild and controlled, a symphony of contradictions that somehow makes perfect sense. It bypasses my broken throat and resonates directly in my chest, in my bones, in the empty spaces where my own song should live. The mate song, the call that signals a fated bond, the moon's gift, the rarest and most precious type of pairing. I see the shock ripple across his face, the way his breath catches, the way his pupils dilate, the way his hands clench into fists at his sides, as if he's physically restraining himself from reaching for me. He feels it too, the recognition, the rightness, the undeniable pull of a true mate bond. Sing, he says, and it is not a command this time, it is a plea, a desperate request. Please, let me hear your song. The hall holds its breath. I see Elder Corvin's face, pale with secondhand humiliation. I see Elder Mira watching with wide, disbelieving eyes. I see pack members exchanging glances, some pitying, some cruel, all waiting with morbid fascination to witness my failure. I open my mouth. I try. Moon, help me. I try with everything I have. My throat works, muscles straining. My lips form the shape of sound. My tongue positions for the first note of the traditional Omega Mate song. I push air from my lungs, willing it to carry melody, to produce even the smallest whisper of music. Nothing. Not even a breath of sound. Just silence. Empty, shameful, absolute silence. A few members of the pack laugh quiet, cruel sounds quickly stifled by those around them. Someone whispers loudly enough for me to hear. I told you, voiceless, worthless. What did he expect? Tears burn in my eyes, hot and humiliating. I have failed. In front of the entire pack, in front of the Alpha King himself, I have proven exactly what they've always said about me. I am deficient, broken, unworthy. I need to leave. I need to run. I start to step back, to retreat to my shadows, to escape this nightmare. But Voss moves faster. He closes the distance between us in a single stride, so close I can feel the heat radiating from his body, smell the wild scent of pine and snow that clings to his skin. His hand rises slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal that might bolt at any moment. His fingers touch my throat. The contact is gentle, reverent even, pressing softly against the hollow where my voice should live. His palm is warm, calloused from years of training in battle, and I feel a tremor run through his hand. You cannot sing, he says quietly, speaking only to me now. The rest of the hall forgotten. It is not a question, it is an acknowledgement. A recognition of truth without judgment. I shake my head, tears spilling over despite my desperate attempt to hold them back. I am humiliating him. I am humiliating myself. Every second I stand here is another wound to both our dignities. But then he does something that stops my heart and steals what little breath I have left. He tilts his head back, his throat exposed in a gesture of trust and vulnerability, and he sings. His voice deep, powerful, achingly beautiful rises into the rafters. It is not a traditional alpha song of dominance and power. It is something older, wilder, something from before the packs established territories and built halls. It is a melody that speaks of ancient forests, moonlit hunts, and bone-deep loneliness. It is a song of mourning and hope twisted together, of darkness searching for light, of a beast calling into the void hoping for an answer. It is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard, Every note resonates in my chest, in my bones, in the hollow places where my own voice once lived. I feel the vibrations of his song moving through me like water through stone, filling the emptiness, making me whole in a way I never imagined possible. He is singing for me, to me. He is offering his voice because I have none. When the last note fades, the hall is absolutely silent. Not the cruel silence of judgment, but the awed silence of witnessing something sacred. Voss looks down at me, and in his storm-gray eyes I see the truth neither of us can deny or explain. Whatever this is, this connection, this recognition, this bond, it is real. It is undeniable. It is fated. You are my mate, he says simply, stating it as fact, making it true through the sheer force of his conviction. The moon has shown me. Your silence does not change what you are to me. Your missing voice does not make you less. It makes you mine. A song only I can hear, perfect and untouchable, meant for me alone. The hall erupts. Voices rise in shock, in protest, in disbelief. The carefully controlled ceremony descends into chaos as pack members argue with each other. Elders clutch their chests in horror, and Omegas stare at me with expressions ranging from envy to confusion. Elder Corvin pushes forward, his face red with indignation and rage. Alpha King, with all due respect, this is unprecedented. An Omega who cannot sing cannot fulfill the mate bond. She cannot soothe your beast, cannot join in pack songs, cannot teach pups the traditional melodies, cannot. Enough. The single word is thunder. It is the voice of a king, of an alpha in his full power, and it carries such absolute authority that every voice in the hall cuts off instantly. The silence that follows is deafening. Voss's eyes sweep across the assembled pack, and I see wolves physically shrink back from the weight of his gaze. I am your Alpha King, he says, each word precise and sharp as a blade. My choice is law. My mate bond is sacred. Seraphine Nightshade is my fated mate chosen not by me, but by the moon herself. Any who challenge this, challenge me directly. Any who refuse to accept her as your future Luna, refuse their king. His words are a declaration of war against tradition, against expectation, against everything the pack holds sacred about Omega bonds and proper pairings. And he has made this declaration publicly, irrevocably, for me. For the worthless, voiceless girl no one wanted. I should feel joy. I should feel vindicated. Instead, I feel terror unlike anything I've ever known. Because I know this pack. I know how they work, how they think, how they resist change. They will never truly accept me. The elders will undermine me at every turn. The other Omegas will resent me for achieving what they all dream of without earning it through proper song. And Voss. Eventually, inevitably, he will come to regret this choice. He will wake up one morning and realize he bound himself to a defective Omega out of some temporary madness, some trick of the moon. He will look at me and see what everyone else sees: a burden, a mistake, a weakness. I cannot watch that happen. I cannot watch the warmth in his eyes turn to disappointment and regret. So I do the only thing I can think to do. The only thing I'm good at. I run. I run blind through the night, my feet pounding against packed earth and stone, my mother's ceremony dress tangling around my legs. Behind me, I hear his voice calling my name, Seraphine, the command in it making my Omega instincts scream at me to stop, to return, to obey. But fear is stronger than instinct right now. Fear of humiliation, of inevitable rejection, of hope that will certainly be crushed. I don't stop running until I reach my dwelling on the eastern ridge. The mile-long path through the forest passes in a blur. My lungs burn, my legs shake, and my chest feels like something has carved a hole through it. I stumble through the door and slam it behind me, throwing the heavy wooden bar across it with trembling hands. The familiar space greets me: my grandmother's chair by the hearth, the shelves lined with healing journals and dried herbs, the small sleeping alcove with its worn quilt. Everything is exactly as I left it this morning, back when my biggest concern was whether I had enough willow bark tea for old Marta's joint pain. That life, that quiet, invisible, safe life, feels like it belonged to someone else. Someone who didn't just get claimed by an alpha king in front of the entire pack. Someone who didn't just run from a fated mate bond like a coward. I sink down onto the cold floor, my back against the door, and I let the tears come. They fall silently, as everything I do is silent, hot tracks down my cold cheeks. What have I done? What is happening to me? A scratching sound at my door makes me freeze. Then his voice, muffled by the wood but unmistakable. Seraphine, please, let me in. Let me explain. I don't move. I can't. If I open that door, if I look at him, I'll break completely. I'll believe in impossible things. And when those impossible things inevitably crumble, it will destroy me. I know you're afraid, he continues, his voice gentle now, the command dropped. I know this is overwhelming. I know you think this is a mistake. But it's not. The moon doesn't make mistakes. What I felt when I looked at you, what I heard, it was real. You're my mate. My fated mate. And I will prove it to you, if you'll let me. The silence stretches. I hear him sigh, hear his hand press against the door. I'll leave, he says finally, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to court you properly, the way you deserve. I'm going to show you that this bond is real. And one day, when you're ready, you'll open this door. I'll wait as long as it takes. I hear his footsteps retreat. Hear him shift into wolf form, the soft pop and crackle of transformation. Hear the padding of forepaws moving away into the night. Only then do I allow myself to breathe. I light the fire with shaking hands, needing the warmth and light to push back the darkness that threatens to swallow me whole. The flames catch and spread across the dry kindling, and I watch them dance, trying to make sense of the chaos in my mind. A fated mate bond, with an alpha king, with Voss Darkwater, who lost his chosen mate and has been alone ever since. It's impossible. It's terrifying. It's everything I never allowed myself to dream about, because dreams like that only lead to pain. Exhaustion finally drags me under. I curl up in my grandmother's chair, pulling her old quilt around my shoulders, and I drift into fitful, restless sleep filled with storm-gray eyes and songs I cannot sing. I wake to screaming. My eyes snap open. The fire has burned down to embers, casting barely enough light to see by. For a moment I think the screaming is part of my nightmare, but then it comes again, a woman's voice, raw with terror and pain, frighteningly close. Then another sound cuts through the night, the howl of a wolf. Not a pack wolf. The sound is wrong, wild, uncontrolled, edged with madness. Raiders. My blood turns to ice. Raiders from the northern wastes sometimes venture into pack territory during harsh winters, desperate for food and victims. Our warrior scouts usually intercept them before they reach residential areas, but occasionally, rarely, one slips through the patrols. The screaming comes again, closer now, more desperate. I recognize the voice with a jolt of shock. Petra. The young Omega, who was just paired tonight at the ceremony. What is she doing out here? She should be safe with her new mate in the ceremonial dens, completing their bond. Why is she near my dwelling, alone, being chased by a raider? Every instinct screams at me to stay inside, to bar the door tighter, to hide and pray the danger passes me by. I am no warrior. I have no combat training. I am a small Omega, with no voice to cry for help. Going out there would be suicide. But the screaming, the pure, undiluted terror in it drags me to my feet before I can think. My grandmother's voice echoes in my memory. You have hands that heal. That is its own kind of magic. The pack may not see it now, but one day, they will need what you can give. I grab the large iron poker from beside my hearth. It's heavy, designed for moving logs, not fighting, but its weight is somewhat comforting in my shaking hands. I take a deep breath, taste ozone and fear on the night air, and I unbolt the door. The scene that greets me is chaos. Petra is running up the path toward my dwelling, her ceremony dress torn and bloodied, one sleeve completely ripped away. Her face is a mask of terror, tears and dirt streaking her cheeks. Behind her, perhaps 20 paces back, a massive gray wolf pursues, larger than any normal pack wolf, its eyes wild with bloodlust and hunger. A raider who has been too long in wolf form, who has lost his humanity to the beast. They are the most dangerous kind, unable to shift back, unable to reason, driven only by instinct and violence. Help me. Petra sobs when she sees me standing in my doorway. Please, goddess, help me. The raider wolf is faster. I can see it in the way it moves, the way the distance between them closes with each stride. It will catch her before she reaches my door. I see the moment it prepares to leap, muscles bunching beneath matted fur, jaws opening to reveal yellowed fangs. I don't think. I just move. I run down the path, my worn dress whipping around my legs, the iron poker raised. I put myself between Petra and the wolf, making myself a shield with my small body. I raise the poker defensively, and I do the only thing I can do. I scream. Not with my voice, because I don't have one. But with everything else. My body, my posture, my eyes. I make myself as large and threatening as possible, waving the poker, baring my teeth, projecting every ounce of danger I can muster, praying to the moon that it will be enough to give Petra time to escape. The raider wolf barely pauses. It snarls, saliva dripping from its jaws, and I see my death in its eyes. Why would it fear me? I am one small omega with a fire poker. I am nothing. But then something changes. The wolf's ears flatten against its skull. Its snarl falters. Its whole body language shifts from aggression to something else, fear. It backs up a step, then another, its wild eyes looking past me. I don't understand until I hear the growl behind me. It is not just a sound. It is a force of nature. It is rage given voice. It is death promising arrival. It is the sound an alpha makes when something threatens what is his. I turn, and he is there. Voss stands behind me in full alpha wolf form, a creature of pure black standing nearly 4 feet at the shoulder, easily twice the size of a normal wolf. His storm gray eyes burn with silver fire. He is magnificent and terrifying, his hackles raised in a ridge along his spine, his lips pulled back to reveal fangs like daggers. The raider wolf whimpers, it actually whimpers, all its savage courage evaporating in the face of true alpha power. It backs away, stumbling over its own feet, then turns and flees into the forest. Voss watches it go, not pursuing, his entire focus snapping to me the moment the threat disappears. He shifts back to human form in a fluid transformation, standing naked in the moonlight, his chest heaving with residual rage and fear. Are you hurt? His voice is rough, strained, his hands hovering over me but not touching, as if afraid to cause harm. Did he touch you? Did he? I shake my head quickly. I'm fine. It's Petra who needs help. As if summoned by her name, other wolves arrive, pack warriors who heard the commotion and came running. Among them is Carrick, Petra's new mate, who rushes to her side with frantic worry written across his face. She's crying, sobbing about how she'd stepped outside the ceremonial den for fresh air, how the raider came out of nowhere, how I put myself between them, how I saved her life. I didn't save her, Voss did. I just stood in the way and hoped. The warriors chase the raider's fleeing scent into the forest to pursue. Someone brings Voss clothing, a cloak that he wraps around himself with absent attention. The small crowd slowly disperses, Carrick carrying Petra back toward the pack center, where the healers can tend to her wounds. Until it's just Voss and me, standing in the cold night air, the chaos fading around us. You ran, he says finally, his voice carefully neutral. Not an accusation, a statement of fact. I nod. What else could I say? From the ceremony. From me. Why? I gesture helplessly at myself, at my throat, trying to make him understand. I'm broken. I cannot give you what you need. I cannot be what a Luna should be. You'll regret this choice. Everyone will turn against us. I'll only bring you shame. He watches my frantic gestures, my desperate attempts to communicate all the fear and inadequacy churning inside me. Then he closes the distance between us, his movements slow and careful, as if approaching something precious and easily frightened. His hands rise to cup my face, large enough that his fingers sink into my hair, gentle enough that I could pull away if I wanted to. He forces me to look at him, to see what's written in his storm gray eyes. Do you know what I heard when you opened your mouth in that hall? He asks softly. I shake my head, tears burning in my eyes. I heard the most beautiful song I have ever known, he whispers. Silent, perfect, meant only for me. Your inability to sing aloud does not make you voiceless, Seraphine. It makes you mine in a way no other Omega could be. The moon gave me a mate whose song cannot be stolen, cannot be corrupted, cannot be claimed by anyone but me. A gift no one else can touch. His words crack something inside me, and the tears spill over, hot tracks down my cold cheeks. He's saying things I cannot let myself believe. Because if I believe them, and they turn out to be lies, if this is temporary madness that will fade, I will not survive the breaking. I know you're afraid, he continues, his thumbs wiping my tears away with infinite gentleness. I know the pack will not make this easy. I know you think you're not enough, that you're broken, that I'll wake up one day and regret this bond. But you stood between a raider and a helpless Omega tonight, with nothing but a fire poker and courage. You chose compassion over safety. You risked your life for someone you barely know. That is the strength of a true Luna. That is what I need. Not a pretty song that any Omega can sing, but a heart brave enough to stand in the dark. I want to pull away. I want to argue, but the truth burning in his eyes pins me in place, makes arguing impossible. Let me court you, he says, and it's a request, not a command. A plea from a king who could order anything but chooses to ask instead. You don't have to accept the bond tonight. You don't have to move to the pack center or take the Luna title immediately. Just let me try. Let me prove that this is real. That what I feel, what we both felt in that hall, is not a mistake or madness, but fate. It's the gentlest command I've ever received from an alpha. A request wrapped in respect, acknowledging my fear and my right to refuse. And despite all my terror, despite all the reasons I should refuse, despite the lifetime of rejection and loneliness telling me this cannot possibly be real, I find myself nodding. Yes, Voss Darkwater is not what I expected. An alpha king, to be. Over the next 3 weeks, he comes to my dwelling every evening after completing his leadership duties at the pack center. He does not demand. He does not command. He does not expect anything from me. He simply exists beside me. The first night, he brings firewood. My stores are running low with winter approaching, and when I open the door to find him standing there with an enormous load stacked in his arms, I'm too shocked to do anything but stand aside and let him enter. He doesn't comment on my small dwelling or the humble nature of my possessions. He simply stacks the wood beside my hearth with careful precision, ensuring each log is positioned for easy access. When he's done, he nods to me and leaves without expectation or ceremony. The second night, he brings fresh game, a large deer he clearly hunted himself, already field-dressed and cleaned. He helps me butcher it without being asked, his powerful hands gentle and skilled with the knife. We work in comfortable silence, the only sounds the crackle of the fire and the whisper of blade through meat. By the time we're finished, I have enough venison curing to last me through the worst of winter. The third night, he asks about my healing work. I hesitate, then fetch my grandmother's journals, 3 leather-bound books, filled with her careful drawings of plants and their properties, detailed instructions for treating various ailments, and notes about patients she helped over her long career. He listens, truly listens, as I use gestures and hastily written notes to explain how certain herbs interact, how bone setting requires both knowledge and intuition, how sometimes the best healing is simply sitting with someone in their pain and letting them know they're not alone. His eyes never leave me as I communicate in my broken, cobbled-together way. He asks questions. Good questions that show he's paying attention, that he understands the complexity of what my grandmother taught me. When I show him a particularly tricky diagram about chest wounds, he shares a story about a battle injury he survived, thanks to a quick-thinking field healer who used moss packing, the same technique my grandmother documented. We are connecting, not through words or songs, but through shared understanding and genuine interest in each other. He never pushes me to speak. He never makes me feel inadequate for my silence. Instead, he learns my language, the tilt of my head that means yes, the way I shake my head slightly for no, the hand gestures I've developed over years to express concepts beyond simple yes divided by no responses. And every night before he leaves, he sings for me. Not the traditional alpha songs of dominance and territorial claims. These are personal songs, intimate ones, filled with emotions alphas are not supposed to show. He sings of loneliness and loss. He sings of the guilt he carries over Kira's death, how he blames himself for not being there, for failing to protect her. He sings of the empty years that followed, of going through motions without purpose, of a throne that felt more like a prison, and he sings of new beginnings, of hope he thought he'd never feel again. Of the moment in the ceremony hall, when his eyes found me and his beast recognized its other half. Of the mate bond that burns in his chest, growing stronger each day despite my hesitation to fully accept it. I listen with my entire being, feeling each note resonate in the empty spaces where my voice used to live. Sometimes tears fall as I listen. Sometimes I smile, despite myself. But I always feel seen, heard, valued, in a way I never imagined possible. The pack watches our unusual courtship with mixed reactions. The elders disapprove loudly, gathering in clusters to whisper about propriety and tradition. Some of the younger wolves find it romantic, treating our unconventional bond as evidence that true mates can transcend rules. A few, mostly omegas who have never shown me kindness, place bets in the taverns about how long it will take before the alpha king comes to his senses and chooses a proper mate. I try not to care. I try to focus on the small world Voss and I are building in my dwelling, where nothing exists except his songs and my silent companionship, and the slow, careful construction of trust. But the outside world does not leave us in peace for long. On the 18th day of our courtship, a day I'll mark forever in my memory, Voss arrives in the morning instead of his usual evening visit. I'm harvesting the last of the fall mushrooms from the shaded north side of my dwelling when I hear him approach. One look at his face tells me something is wrong. His jaw is tight, his eyes hard, his entire body radiating tension. There's been an incident, he says without preamble. Raiders attacked the southern border. 3 warriors wounded, 2 seriously. The healers at the pack center are overwhelmed. They've sent for you. The pack center, healers are requesting my help. The ones who have never officially acknowledged me as a healer, who have accepted my herbs and treatments but never my presence. The ones who made it clear I was tolerated but not welcomed. But wounded wolves need help. Politics and pride don't matter when lives are at stake. I gather my supplies quickly, my healing kit, extra bandages, my grandmother's journal on trauma treatment. Voss watches me work, his expression softening slightly. I'll take you there, he says. On my back, it's faster. I hesitate. Riding on an alpha's back is an intimate act, one usually reserved for mates who have completed their bond. But he's right, it's much faster than walking the mile through the forest. And time matters when treating serious wounds. I nod my agreement. He shifts into his massive black wolf form, lowering himself so I can climb onto his back. His fur is thick and warm, and the moment I'm settled, he takes off at a ground-eating lope that covers the distance to the pack center in under 5 minutes. The healing house is chaos when we arrive. Blood scent hangs heavy in the air. Warriors are being tended on every available surface. The head healer, an elderly beta named Corvin, looks up as we enter, his face tight with stress. His eyes widen when he sees me, then flick to Voss, standing beside me in human form. Whatever protests he might have had die on his lips. The worst cases are in the back room, he says curtly. Chest wound and a torn leg. We've stopped the bleeding, but... He doesn't finish. Doesn't need to. I understand. They've done what they can, but these warriors need more. I move past him into the back room. Voss, a solid presence at my shoulder. 2 young warriors lie on pallets, both barely conscious, both drenched in blood despite the bandages wrapped around them. I recognize one of them. Darrow. He's the younger brother of Lissa, one of the Omegas who was paired at the ceremony. He can't be more than 16, winters old. Too young to die. I set my kit down and get to work. The chest wound is severe. A raider's claw tore through muscle and grazed the lung. The warrior is struggling to breathe, each inhalation a wet, rattling sound that speaks of blood where it shouldn't be. I clean my hands quickly, then begin assessing the damage with gentle fingers. Voss stands beside me, not interfering but ready to help if needed. What do you need? He asks quietly. I write quickly on a scrap of cloth. Boiled water. Clean bandages. Yarrow, comfrey, and spider silk from my kit. He moves immediately, gathering supplies, boiling water over the healing house fire, laying out everything I need within easy reach. He doesn't question my methods. He simply trusts. I work for 3 hours straight, cleaning wounds, packing them with the herbal mixtures my grandmother taught me, stitching torn flesh with careful precision. The younger warrior, Darrow, requires a chest tube, a risky procedure that involves inserting a hollow reed between his ribs to drain blood from around his lung. My hands shake as I make the first cut. This could save him or kill him. There is no middle ground. Voss's hand settles on my shoulder, warm, steady, grounding. I feel his absolute confidence in me flowing through that touch, and my hands steady. The procedure works. Blood drains through the reed, and Daro's breathing eases. His color begins to return. He will live. By the time I finish treating both warriors and check on the others throughout the healing house, dawn is breaking. I'm exhausted, covered in blood, my hands cramping from the delicate work. Corvin approaches me as I'm washing my hands. His expression is complicated, respect warring with something that looks like shame. You saved their lives, he says quietly. Both of them would have died without your intervention. We should have acknowledged your skills long ago. Should have welcomed you into the healing house as your grandmother's rightful successor. He bows his head. I apologize for the years of disrespect. I'm too tired to respond with anything but a small nod. Acceptance of his apology, though the wounds of those years won't heal as quickly as the ones I just treated. Voss wraps his cloak around my shoulders. I'm shaking with exhaustion and cold. Let's get you home, he murmurs. But before we can leave, a commotion erupts at the healing house entrance, raised voices, the sound of a scuffle. Then, Elder Corvin bursts through the door, flanked by two other council members I recognize as his allies, Elder Thane and Elder Bessa. Alpha King, Corvin says, his voice sharp with barely controlled anger. We need to speak with you. Privately, now. Voss's expression hardens. I'm escorting my mate home. Whatever you need to say can wait. It cannot wait, Bessa snaps. She's a female of 50 winters, powerful in pack politics, despite never having produced children of her own. The council has convened an emergency session. We're invoking the Luna trials. The words hang in the air like poison. Voss goes utterly still, and I feel the temperature in the room drop as his alpha power flares with barely suppressed rage. You wouldn't dare. We dare because we must, Corvin says, attempting to sound reasonable despite the gleam of triumph in his eyes. You've claimed a mate who cannot fulfill the basic requirements of the Luna position. The pack deserves proof that she is worthy of the title. It is our right and our duty to invoke the ancient law. The Luna trials. I've heard of them in stories. Ancient rites that haven't been used in living memory. They're designed to test an Omega's worthiness to stand as Luna when the pairing is contested or unconventional. 3 trials. 3 impossible tests. Fail anyone, and the mate bond must be severed. This is political manipulation, Voss snarls, his wolf rising so close to the surface that his eyes flash silver. You're using tradition as a weapon because you cannot control who I choose to mate. We're protecting the pack, Thane says coldly. He's a warrior turned elder, scarred and hard. A Luna who cannot sing the pack songs, who cannot perform the traditional Omega rites, who was a recluse with no pack bonds. She endangers us all. If she can prove her worth through the trials, we will accept her. If not... He lets the implication hang. I feel Voss's entire body tense, ready to reject this, ready to use his authority as Alpha King to simply refuse. But I also see the calculation in the Elder's eyes. They want him to refuse. They want him to override tradition, because that will give them ammunition to turn the pack against him. This is a trap, beautifully constructed. If Voss refuses the trials, they'll claim he's become a tyrant, choosing personal desire over pack welfare. If he accepts, they believe I'll fail, and the mate bond will be broken by law rather than by choice. I reach out and touch Voss's arm. When he looks at me, I see the anguish in his eyes. He knows what I'm thinking. I nod slowly. Accept the trials. It's the only way. No, he says immediately, his voice rough with emotion. Seraphine, you could die. Some of these trials, they're designed to be nearly impossible. I won't risk you. I pull out a scrap of cloth and write quickly. If we refuse, they win. They'll undermine you until the pack fractures. I have to prove myself to them, and to me. He reads my words, and I watch his face crumble with conflicted emotion. He knows I'm right. He hates it, but he knows. What are the 3 trials? He asks Corvin, his voice deadly quiet. Corvin's smile is vicious. First, 7 days and nights alone in the sacred forest, surviving without aid or outside contact. Second, she must heal a pack member that our master healers have declared beyond saving. Third, she must gain the approval of the majority of the pack in open assembly. Each trial is designed to exploit my weaknesses. The sacred forest is dangerous, full of predators, raiders, and worse things. The healing trial requires a miracle. The public approval requires me to win over a pack that has spent my entire life rejecting me. And if she succeeds in all three? Voss demands. Then we will accept her as Luna without further contest, Bessa says. You have our word before the moon. Your word means nothing, Voss snaps. But then he looks at me, and I see the defeat in his eyes. But if this is what it takes to end this political maneuvering once and for all, then we accept. Seraphine will face your trials. He turns to me, his hands framing my face with desperate gentleness. You don't have to do this. I can dissolve the council. I can declare you Luna by royal decree and damn the consequences. I shake my head firmly. If he does that, I'll never truly be accepted. The pack will see me as a tyrant's prize, not their chosen Luna. This is the only way to prove to everyone, including myself, that I belong. I place my hand over his heart, feeling it thunder against my palm. Then I point to myself and nod. I can do this. I have to. The trial begins 2 days later. Those 2 days are a blur of preparation, Voss showing me maps of the sacred forest, teaching me tracking techniques, making me practice starting fires with flint until my fingers are blistered and raw. He barely sleeps, staying at my dwelling through the nights, his presence a constant comfort, even as the weight of what's coming presses down on us both. The morning of the trial, the entire pack gathers at the forest edge. It's required by tradition all witnesses to the Luna trial, all bound by its outcome. I'm given only the clothes on my back, a flint for fire starting, and a small knife barely longer than my palm, sharp enough to skin a rabbit but useless against any real predator. Nothing else. No food, no shelter, no healing supplies. 7 days and nights. Alone. Survive, and I pass the first trial. Fail to emerge, and, well, the forest keeps its dead. Voss pulls me aside before the trial begins, his hands gripping my shoulders, his eyes burning with intensity. Listen to me. If you need help, if anything happens, howl. I don't care about the law or the trial rules. I will come for you. Do you understand? Your life matters more than any title. I nod. But we both know the truth. I cannot howl. My throat produces no sound. And even if I could, calling for help means automatic failure, means losing him. He pulls me against his chest, his arms crushing me close, and for a long moment we just stand there, breathing each other in. Come back to me, he whispers into my hair. That's all I ask. Come back. Then he releases me, and I step into the sacred forest. The pack seals the boundary behind me, a line of warriors forming a wall that I cannot cross until the 7 days are complete. If I try to leave early, I fail. If anyone crosses into the forest to help me, I fail. I am truly, completely alone. The forest swallows me immediately. Ancient trees block out most of the sunlight, their branches forming a canopy so thick that walking here feels like moving through eternal twilight. The air is different here, heavier, older, filled with the scent of earth and decay and wild things. The first 3 days are brutal but manageable. I find a small cave for shelter, checking carefully for occupants before claiming it. I build a fire near the entrance, feeding it constantly to keep predators at bay. I forage for edible plants and roots, finding enough to keep the worst of the hunger at bay. I treat the forest with the respect my grandmother taught me, taking only what I need, leaving offerings of braided grass to the old spirits that dwell here. At night, I huddle by my fire and think of Voss. Wonder if he's sleeping. Wonder if he's already regretting his choice to let me attempt this trial. Wonder if I'll survive to see him again. But on the 4th night, everything changes. I wake to the sound of footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, unmistakably human feet, not animal. Someone is in the sacred forest with me. My heart pounds as I extinguish my fire, plunging myself into darkness. I grab my small knife, pressing myself into the shadows of my cave, barely breathing. The footsteps grow closer. A figure emerges in the moonlight filtering through the trees, and shock jolts through me. Drain. One of the pack's younger warriors, arrogant, cruel, the kind of male who finds pleasure in tormenting those weaker than himself. He's one of Elder Corvin's supporters, always hovering around the council members, doing their dirty work. "I know you're here, little Omega," he calls out, his voice carrying through the dark. "All alone. No king to protect you now, just you and me in the forest. And you know what? If you die out here, everyone will blame it on accident, on wild animals, on your own inadequacy. No one will know the truth. This is murder, premeditated. The elders sent him, or at least gave him permission. If I die here, it removes the problem of my mate bond with Voss, and they can claim it was my own failure to survive the trial." I grip my knife tighter. The blade is small, meant for skinning game, not fighting a full-grown alpha warrior, but it's all I have. Drain shifts into wolf form, his transformation smooth and practiced. He's larger than me, stronger, faster. He has every advantage. I am going to die here. He attacks without warning, leaping toward my cave entrance. I dodge barely, his jaws snapping shut where my throat was a second before. I slash with the knife, catching his flank, drawing blood. He howls in pain and rage, rounding on me with renewed fury. I can't win this fight. The best I can do is make it costly for him. Make him bleed. Make him work for this murder. But then, impossibly, other wolves emerge from the trees. Not pack warriors, not formally, but I recognize them. Petra, shifting from human to wolf form as she runs. Lissa, the healer's apprentice. Mira, an Omega I've traded herbs with occasionally. And Carrick, Petra's mate. They should not be here. Interfering with the Luna trials is a crime punishable by exile or death. But they came anyway. "You really are stupid, Drain," Petra snarls, her wolf form smaller than his but fierce with protective rage. "Did you think no one would notice you entering the sacred forest? Did you think we wouldn't follow?" The fight that follows is brief and brutal. 5 against 1. Even when the one is a larger alpha male. Drain fights viciously, wounding Carrick's shoulder and snapping at Mira's legs, but he's outnumbered and outmatched by their combined fury. Finally, bleeding from multiple wounds, Drain breaks away and flees into the forest's depths, disappearing into the darkness. I stand there, shaking, hardly able to believe what just happened. I'm alive. Barely, but alive. Petra shifts back to human form, her eyes fierce in the moonlight. "Are you all right? Did he hurt you?" I shake my head. "I'm fine, but they shouldn't be here. They'll be punished." "Let them try," Carrick says grimly, holding his wounded shoulder. "Attempted murder during the Luna trials is treason. We're testifying to the council about what Drain tried to do. You'll be vindicated, and he'll be executed." Lissa steps forward, her face serious. "We need to leave before anyone else sees us here." But Seraphine. She hesitates, then continues. "You're going to be our Luna, we all feel it. And when you are, remember this. We followed you into the dark. We risked everything for you. Because you're worth it." The words hit me like a physical blow. Worth it. Someone thinks I'm worth risking everything for. They disappear back into the trees, leaving me alone again with my racing heart and the impossible knowledge that I have allies. Friends. People who chose to stand with me, even when it cost them. I complete the remaining 3 days of the trial in a daze. No more attacks come. Drain was captured by pack warriors as he fled the forest, his wounds and guilt evident. When I emerge from the sacred forest on the morning of the 8th day, dirty and exhausted but alive, the pack is waiting. Voss catches me as my legs give out, holding me against his chest, his whole body shaking with relief. "You did it?" He breathes into my hair. "You survived, my strong, brave mate. But there's no celebration yet. The first trial is complete, but 2 more remain, and I can see Elder Corvin watching from the crowd, his face dark with fury. Drain's attempt failed, and the warrior confessed everything before his execution, implicating Corvin in the murder plot. But Corvin is slippery, already denying involvement, claiming Drain acted alone. The war is far from over. I'm given only 2 days to recover before the second trial begins. 2 days where Voss refuses to leave my side, where he brings me food and tends the minor scrapes and bruises I sustained in the forest, and holds me through nightmares about Drain's eyes in the darkness. On the morning of the second trial, they bring me the patient I must save. Her name is Senna, and she is dying. She's an elderly Omega, perhaps 70 winters old, her body ravaged by the wasting sickness, a disease that slowly shuts down the body's ability to shift, to heal, to live. It's a death sentence. Always. There is no cure, no treatment beyond making the victim comfortable until the end. The pack's master healers have already declared her case terminal. She has days, perhaps hours left. They place her in my dwelling, and leave me alone with the impossible task. The message is clear: work a miracle, or fail the trial. Heal the unhealable, or lose everything. I spend the first hour simply sitting with Senna, holding her papery hand, feeling the weak flutter of her pulse. She drifts in, out of consciousness, her breathing shallow and labored. When she's awake, confusion clouds her eyes. My grandmother's journals spread before me. I search desperately for anything that might help. The wasting sickness has no known cure, but there are treatments that can ease suffering, slow the progression. My grandmother documented several cases where she managed to extend life by months or even years through careful herbal management. But Senna is beyond that stage. She's in the final decline. Herbs and poultices won't be enough. I brew teas from moonbark and silver root anyway. I create poultices from healing moss and pack them against her chest where the sickness is attacking her lungs. I sing to her not with my voice, but with my hands, stroking her hair, holding her when she shivers, offering whatever comfort a voiceless Omega can provide. The first day passes. Senna's condition doesn't improve, but it doesn't worsen either. A small mercy. On the second day, she wakes more lucid than she's been since they brought her to me. Her rheumy eyes focus on my face and she smiles a frail, knowing expression. "You're the voiceless one," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "The king's mate. The one they're all so afraid of." I nod, surprised she knows who I am. "They think I'm going to die," she continues, each word an effort. "They think you're going to fail. They chose me specifically because I'm supposed to be beyond saving." She coughs, a wet, rattling sound. "But I have a secret, child. Would you like to know it?" I squeeze her hand gently, encouraging her to continue. "My grandmother had the wasting sickness too," Senna says quietly. 60 years ago, when I was just a girl of 10 winters, everyone said she was dying. But there was a healer, a young healer, they said, barely 20 years old herself, who knew the old magic. Not just herbs and poultices, something deeper. The magic of compassion, of staying when everyone else gives up, of believing that life is worth fighting for even at the very end. Her eyes hold mine. That healer saved my grandmother. Gave her 10 more years of life. Do you know what that healer's name was? My heart stops. I know. Somehow, I know before she says it. Her name was Lysa Nightshade. Senna says. Your grandmother. She was just starting her healing practice then, and everyone doubted her because she was so young. But she proved them all wrong by refusing to give up on my grandmother when everyone else had. Tears spill down my cheeks. My grandmother. The woman who taught me everything, who believed in me when no one else did. She saved lives, not through grand gestures or powerful magic, but through simple, steadfast compassion, through refusing to give up. She would be proud of you, Senna whispers. Fighting for me, even though I'm a stranger. Even though saving me won't make you popular or powerful. You're fighting because it's right. Because you have her gift, the gift of seeing worth in lives that others have discarded. She reaches up with trembling fingers and touches my chest, right over my heart. The magic is here, child, not in your throat, not in songs or words, here, in the heart that refuses to let go, in the compassion that sees every life as precious. That's the old magic. That's what your grandmother knew. And that's what will save me now, if anything can. I throw myself back into the work with renewed determination. I don't sleep. I barely eat. I try every treatment my grandmother documented and some she didn't. Combinations of herbs and techniques that feel right even though they're not in any book. And slowly, impossibly, Senna begins to improve. Her breathing eases on the third day. Her color returns on the fourth. On the fifth day, she sits up on her own for the first time, requesting food with actual appetite. By the seventh day, she walks outside to feel the sun on her face, her steps shaky but real. When the council arrives to assess her condition, they find her sitting in my grandmother's chair by the hearth, drinking tea and laughing at something I wrote on my slate. The shock on their faces would be funny if I weren't so exhausted I can barely stand. This is impossible. Elder Corvin breathes, his face pale. No one survives wasting sickness in its final stages, no one. My grandmother did, Senna says firmly, her voice stronger than it's been in weeks, because Lysa Nightshade saved her 60 years ago, and now Lysa's granddaughter has saved me. The old magic runs in this family, the magic of true healing, not just treating symptoms, but fighting for life with everything you have. She looks directly at Corvin. You asked for proof of worth. Here is your proof. This child has the gift of a master healer. She has the heart of a Luna. She has earned her place. The council cannot deny it. Voss sweeps me into his arms, holding me as my legs finally give out from exhaustion. Two down, he murmurs against my hair. One more trial, my love. One more, and you're mine forever. But as he carries me to my bed so I can finally rest, I see the dark looks exchanged between Corvin and his allies. They're running out of options, which makes them more dangerous than ever. I sleep for 16 hours straight, my body finally claiming the rest it desperately needs. When I wake, it's to find Voss sitting in my grandmother's chair beside my bed, his head bowed, his hand holding mine even in sleep. He looks exhausted. Shadows mark the skin beneath his eyes, and new lines of stress bracket his mouth. Being Alpha King while watching his mate face deadly trials is taking its toll. I squeeze his hand gently. His eyes snap open immediately, and relief floods his face. You're awake, he says, his voice rough. How do you feel? Tired, sore, but alive. I gesture to communicate this, and he nods understanding. The third trial is in 3 days, he says quietly. The public assembly. You'll stand before the entire pack, and they'll vote whether to accept you as Luna. His jaw tightens. It should be a formality after everything you've done surviving the forest, healing the unhealable. But Corvin and his faction are working the crowd, spreading doubts and fears. I write on my slate, what are they saying? That you used forbidden dark magic to heal Senna. That you had help in the forest Petra and the others' interference invalidates your success. That a voiceless Luna will bring shame and weakness to the pack. He runs his free hand through his hair in frustration. They're twisting everything you've accomplished into evidence of wrongdoing. And some of the pack is listening. Before I can respond, rapid footsteps sound outside. Someone pounds urgently on my door. Voss is on his feet instantly, positioning himself between me and the door. Who approaches? It's Petra, Alpha King. I need to speak with you and Seraphine immediately. It's urgent. Voss opens the door. Petra stumbles inside, her face pale with terror. Carrick right behind her supporting her weight. They're coming, Petra gasps. Now, Corvin's faction, they've turned some of the warriors. They're calling it a protective arrest, claiming Seraphine used dark magic and needs to be contained before the third trial. But it's a lie. It's a coup. Her voice breaks. They're going to kill her, Voss. They're going to make it look like an accident, and then you'll have no choice but to choose another mate. This was always the plan. The betrayal crashes over me. Not just opposition to my bond with Voss, a coordinated plot to murder me and frame it as lawful justice. How many warriors? Voss demands, his alpha power flooding the room, making the very air shimmer with his rage. 20, maybe more, Carrick reports. Led by Corvin himself, along with Thane and Bessa, they have testimonies all lies, claiming they witnessed Seraphine performing forbidden rituals. Enough to create reasonable doubt. Enough to justify arresting her, and... He doesn't finish. Doesn't need to. Voss turns to me, and I see the conflict tearing him apart written across his face. I'll slaughter them all. He snarls. Every single traitor. They want to fight? I'll give them war. But I grab his face with both hands, forcing him to look at me, to focus. No. If you kill your own pack members, even traitorous ones, the pack will fracture completely. Civil war will destroy everything you've built. Then what? He demands, his voice breaking. Let them take you? Let them murder you on false charges while I stand by and do nothing? Seraphine, I will not lose you. I write quickly, my hand shaking. I run. I disappear. They can't execute someone they can't find. You stay. Root out the conspiracy. Protect the pack. When it's safe, we find each other again. No, he says flatly. Absolutely not. I'm not letting you disappear into the wilderness alone. We'll face this. Together, or we'll run together. I shake my head desperately. If I stay, they'll force him to choose between me and his pack. Between love and duty. I can't do that to him. I won't be the reason his pack tears itself apart, or the reason he abandons the wolves who depend on him. The sound of approaching footsteps echoes in the distance, getting closer. We're out of time. I stand on my toes and kiss him, fierce and claiming and desperate, trying to pour everything I cannot say into that kiss. I love you. I choose you. This isn't goodbye forever. Just wait for me. When I pull back, his eyes are bright with unshed tears. This is not over, he growls. I will find you. I will fix this, and then I will make every single one of them pay for what they tried to do. I nod, memorizing his face, the storm-gray eyes, the scar on his jaw, the fierce love burning in his expression. Then I grab my emergency pack, always prepared, since my grandmother taught me to be ready for anything, and I run. Out the back window. Into the forest. Into the wild lands beyond pack territory where no one will think to look for me. Behind me, I hear shouting. Hear Voss's roar of rage. Hear the sounds of confrontation. But I don't stop. I can't stop. I run until my lungs burn and my legs scream, until the sounds of the pack center fade to nothing. I run until I'm alone again, as I've always been. Except this time, instead of running from love, I'm running to save it. I survived 3 weeks in the deep wilderness beyond pack territory. 3 weeks of cold, hunger, and crushing loneliness. I move constantly, never staying in one place long enough to be tracked. I cover my scent by wading through streams, sleeping in trees, avoiding any established paths. I live on foraged roots, trapped rabbits, and the occasional fish I manage to catch. At night, I curl up in whatever shelter I can find: hollow logs, rock overhangs, abandoned animal dens, and I sing silently to the John Moon, praying that Voss is safe, that he's found a way to expose the conspiracy. I have no way of knowing what's happening in the pack. No way of knowing if Voss is even alive, if Corvin's faction succeeded in their coup, if everything we built together has crumbled to ash. The not knowing is worse than the cold or hunger. It's a constant ache in my chest, a hollow place where our mate bond should be singing but instead sits quiet and fearful. On the 22nd day, as I'm checking a snare trap near a frozen stream, I hear it, a howl. Not just any howl. His howl. The specific pattern that we practiced together during our courtship. The one that means safe, come home. I freeze. It could be a trick. Corvin could have forced Voss to call me, setting a trap. But my heart doesn't care about logic or caution. My feet are already moving, running toward the sound before my mind can argue. I find him in a clearing 3 miles from where I've been hiding. He's in human form, alone, his clothes torn and bloodied. The moment he sees me, his expression crumbles with relief, so profound it brings me to my knees. He crashes into me, pulling me against him, and we collapse together on the frozen ground, holding each other like drowning people clutching wreckage. It's over, he says hoarsely against my hair. It's done. The conspiracy is broken. You can come home. Through tears and desperate embraces, Voss tells me everything. After I fled, he did not chase me. Instead, he called an emergency pack assembly something that could only be ignored on pain of exile. He stood before the gathered pack, all of them, and he did something no Alpha King had done in living memory. He asked for help. He told them the truth, all of it. About the Luna trials being manipulated from the start. About the conspiracy to murder me. About Elder Corvin and his faction planning a coup using my death as cover. About how they had embezzled pack resources for years and feared that a new Luna, especially one who came from nothing and understood the struggles of the overlooked, would discover their crimes during the traditional audit that comes with taking office. And then he made a simple request. If you believe in justice, if you believe in the old ways where truth matters more than politics, help me find the proof. What he didn't expect was the response. Dozens of pack members stepped forward. Omegas, who had been overlooked and abused by Corvin's faction. Betas, who had witnessed financial irregularities but feared speaking up. Even some lower-ranked alphas who resented the way the elders hoarded power and resources. Petra testified about Drain's attack in the sacred forest, and 3 other warriors came forward to say that Drain had bragged about being hired by Corvin to solve the Omega problem before his execution. Senna testified about my healing, about the lies being spread that I used dark magic. She brought forward her grandmother's journal, 60 years old, carefully preserved, that documented lice and nightshade, saving her with the same techniques I used. Carrick presented financial records he'd secretly copied over the years, showing Corvin embezzling pack resources to fund his lavish lifestyle, while Omegas and lower-ranked wolves went hungry. Worker after worker came forward. Individually, their knowledge was just fragments. Together, it was damning. The conspiracy unraveled like a rotten rope. Corvin and his closest allies, Thane, Bessa, and 4 other elders were arrested for conspiracy, embezzlement, and attempted murder. The warriors who followed them were given a choice: face judgment for their role in the plot, or leave the pack forever as rogues. Most chose exile. The pack voted, Voss says, his voice thick with emotion. I gave them a choice. Accept you as Luna, based on everything they now knew about your character, your strength, your healing gift. Or, I would step down as Alpha King, and we would leave together. I told them I would not rule a pack that rejected my fated mate. I stare at him in shock. He was willing to give up everything: his title, his pack, his life's purpose. For me, they voted to accept you. He continues, a smile breaking through his exhausted expression. Unanimously, Seraphine. Not a single wolf voted against you. The 3rd trial is over. You've already won. The pack wants you. They're waiting for you to come home. Tears streamed down my face. Tears of disbelief, of relief, of a joy so intense, it's almost painful. But there's one more thing, Voss says, his voice dropping to something soft and reverent. Something I need to ask you now, before we return, before you become Luna, and our lives become public and complicated, and never quite ours again. He takes both my hands in his storm-gray eyes holding mine with an intensity that steals my breath. Seraphine Nightshade, Voiceless Omega, healer, survivor, the strongest person I have ever known. Will you accept the mate bond? Will you let me mark you, claim you, love you for the rest of our lives? Will you be my Luna, my partner, my everything? This is the moment. The choice that will define my entire future. I could refuse. I could walk away. Live alone in the wilderness, never risk my heart being broken again. But my grandmother's voice whispers in my memory. The greatest magic is compassion. It can mend what power breaks. And I realize something profound. I am not broken. I never was. My silence is not a flaw to be fixed or a curse to be lifted. It's part of who I am, a unique way of experiencing the world, of connecting with others beyond words. And Voss doesn't see me despite my silence. He sees me, accepts me, loves me, because of everything I am, including my silence. I don't have words to give him. But I have something better. I lean forward and kiss him. I pour everything I cannot say into that kiss. Yes, always, forever. I choose you. I choose us. I choose this life. When we part, he's smiling through tears, and so am I. I'll take that as a yes, he murmurs, and then he pulls me close and he marks me. His teeth find the junction of my neck and shoulder, the sacred place where a mate's claim is sealed. The bite is sharp and perfect and right, and I feel the bond snap into place like a key turning in a lock, a golden thread connecting his soul to mine, strong and unbreakable. I mark him in return, my smaller teeth finding his neck, claiming him as mine just as fiercely as he claimed me. When it's done, we are bonded, mated, married in the way of wolves permanently, irrevocably, perfectly. And for the first time in my entire life, I don't feel alone. Through the mate bond, I can feel his emotions, his love, his pride, his fierce protectiveness. And he can feel mine, my joy, my relief, my absolute certainty that this is right. We don't need words. We have something better. We have each other. We return to the pack center together, walking side by side through territory that feels new despite its familiarity. Everything is the same trees, the same paths, the same buildings, but I am different. I am no longer the ghost girl hiding in the shadows. I am the Alpha King's chosen mate, marked and bonded, returning home. The pack is waiting for us at the center, not with hostility or judgment, but with curiosity and cautious hope. Petra sees us first. She lets out a cry of joy and runs forward, throwing her arms around me in a fierce hug. "You're back, you're safe. Oh, thank the moon, we were so worried." Others follow. Lissa, Mira, Carrick, even old Corvin, the master healer. One by one, they approach not to judge, but to welcome. "I'm sorry," Corvin says quietly, bowing his head. "For all the years I didn't see you, didn't value you. You are twice the healer your grandmother was, and I should have recognized that long ago." "We want to make things right," Lissa adds. "The pack has suffered from the elders' corruption. We need someone who understands what it means to be overlooked, to struggle. We need a Luna who will fight for all of us, not just the powerful." I write on my slate, my hand shaking. "I'm just one person. I can't fix everything. You don't have to fix everything alone," Petra says firmly. "That's what a pack is for. We help each other. And now you have all of us behind you." Voss's hand finds mine, squeezing gently. Through our bond, I feel his pride and love washing over me like warm sunlight. The formal Luna ceremony is held 3 days later, giving me time to recover and prepare. The same great hall where I once stood in shadows now glitters with celebration. Every pack member attends not because attendance is mandatory, but because they genuinely want to witness this moment. I wear robes of silver and white, the traditional Luna colors. The Luna sigil, a crescent moon cradling a single star, is embroidered over my heart. Voss stands beside me in formal black, looking every inch the powerful Alpha King. But when he looks at me, his eyes are soft with love. Elder Mira, one of the few council members not involved in Corvin's conspiracy, performs the ceremony. She is elderly, her voice wavering with age, but her words carry weight and authority. "We gather to witness the bonding of our Alpha King to his chosen mate," she intones. "Seraphine Nightshade, Omega of the Healing Gift, survivor of the Luna trials, you have proven your worth beyond any doubt. You have shown strength in the face of danger, compassion in the face of suffering, and courage in the face of conspiracy." She turns to the assembled pack. "All in favor of accepting Seraphine as your Luna, your leader, your advocate, make your voices heard." The response is a chorus of howls, hundreds of voices rising together in acceptance and celebration. The sound is overwhelming, beautiful, a song of welcome that resonates in my chest. Through the mate bond, I feel Voss's joy mingling with my own. We did it. Against all odds, despite every obstacle, we won. Mira places the Luna's circlet on my head, a simple silver band adorned with moonstone. It's not a crown, but a symbol of service. A reminder that being Luna means putting the pack's needs first. "Rise, Luna Seraphine," Mira says. "Rise and take your place beside your mate and your pack." I stand. And Voss takes my hand, raising it high. The pack erupts in celebration, howls and cheers, and stamping feet. I am Luna, voiceless, silent, but heard. 6 months later, the great hall is filled with sound, singing, laughter, celebration. It is the moonrise pairing ceremony, the same event that once represented my deepest humiliation. But tonight, I stand not in the shadows but at the center, at Voss's side, wearing the silver robes of a Luna. The pack has transformed in the months since our bonding. With the corrupt elders removed, new leadership has emerged, wolves, who value merit over politics, compassion over cruelty. The Omega class, once treated as little more than breeding stock and singers, now has representation in pack decisions. I established a council of Omegas who meet monthly to discuss pack needs and bring concerns directly to me and Voss. Healing houses have been built in every district, staffed by healers trained in both traditional medicine and my grandmother's techniques. No wolf goes without treatment anymore, regardless of rank or status. The old ways, the good parts of the old ways are being revived. Respect for elders who earned it through wisdom, not just age, protection for the vulnerable. The understanding that a pack is only as strong as its weakest member, and at the heart of it all, impossibly, is me. I am called many things now. Luna Seraphine, the silent Luna. The Omega who healed the king. The voice of the voiceless. The pack has given me many names, many stories. But my favorite is the simplest. Voss's. Mate. The ceremony proceeds beautifully. 12 Omegas present themselves, each singing their hearts out, hoping to catch an alpha's ear. But there's a difference now. The ceremony is no longer a market where Omegas are judged solely on their songs. It's a celebration of potential partnerships. And if an Omega is not chosen tonight, they don't leave in shame. They leave knowing they have value beyond a mate, worth beyond a song. They can pursue healing, or crafting, or warrior training, if they have the aptitude. The pack supports them rather than dismissing them. One young Omega catches my attention, a girl named Sarah who stumbles over her words when called forward. She tries to sing, but anxiety chokes her voice, and only a whisper emerges. The old pack would have mocked her. But tonight, the pack waits patiently, offering encouragement rather than judgment. When she finally manages a shaky melody, a young beta steps forward to claim her. Not because her song was perfect, but because her courage resonated with him. Through our mate bond, I feel Voss's satisfaction. He leans close and whispers, "That's your influence. You taught them that worth isn't measured in perfect performances." The ceremony ends with the traditional closing hymn. This time, when Elder Mira sings, others join not in perfect unison, but in a joyful chaos of voices, finding harmony together. I don't sing. I can't, but I don't feel excluded. Instead, I feel the music resonating through the mate bond, feel Voss's voice in my chest as if it were my own. After the ceremony, as the pack begins to disperse, Petra approaches with Carrick and their newborn pup cradled in her arms. "Luna," Petra says warmly. We've moved past formalities in private, but she uses my title during public gatherings. "We wanted you to know. We're naming her after your grandmother. Lysa. If you're comfortable with it." Emotion clogs my throat. I nod quickly, tears gathering in my eyes. The baby tiny, perfect, sleeping peacefully represents everything I never thought I'd have. Hope, future, family. Voss wraps his arm around me, sensing my overwhelming feelings. "She would be honored," he says for me, his voice gentle. "As are we." Later that night, in the private chambers we share in the Luna wing of the Pack Center, Voss pulls me into his arms. "Do you ever regret it?" he asks softly, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my back. "The chaos, the responsibility, the constant demands? You could have had a quiet life in your cottage on the ridge." I shake my head firmly, then pull back enough to write on the slate we keep by the bed. That wasn't living. It was hiding. This, even with all its challenges, this is real. I place my hand over his heart, feeling its steady beat. Then I take his hand and place it over mine. Our heartbeats sync, match through our mate bond, finding rhythm together. "I know," he whispers, understanding what I cannot say aloud. "I feel it too. This is where we both belong." That night, as I drift to sleep in his arms, I think about the girl I was just months ago. Silent, broken, invisible. Convinced her voicelessness made her worthless, that her silence was a curse. She would never believe this life was possible. Would never believe that her greatest weakness could become her greatest strength. But she didn't know what I know now. True strength isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about showing up when everyone else walks away. It's about healing instead of hurting. It's about choosing compassion, even when the world chooses cruelty. My silence was never a curse. It was a gift. It taught me to listen when others only heard what they wanted to hear. It taught me to see the wolves that everyone else overlooked, the invisible, the struggling, the forgotten. It taught me that there are 1,000 ways to speak, and words are only one of them. I was not chosen at a ceremony through a pretty song. I was found in the darkness by a king who knew what it meant to be broken, who understood that sometimes the most powerful connections are the ones that transcend words. Together, We learn that broken things can heal, that silent things can sing in their own way, and that the most powerful magic in the world isn't found in grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's found in simple acts of staying, of refusing to give up, of believing that every life has worth, every soul has value, every voice, even a silent one, deserves to be heard. I am Luna Seraphine, the silent Luna, the mate of an alpha king, the healer of the hopeless, the voice of the voiceless. I am silent, but my life sings. I am home,